Episode 7 got me like...
Enough!
Stop telling me
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Yep, I think I've found something even more depressing than Thanksgiving with my family. House of the Dragon Episode 7 has arrived with all the dragon riding and incest you've come to expect. So let me take you down this non-spoiler deep dive into the episode, its connection to Game of Thrones, and if you're lucky, you may even get to marry your own bug-collecting sister.
And she eats bugs.
These intros don't make any sense, but you should like and subscribe anyway. I'll be coming out with the next episode preview breakdown very soon. If you happen to watch my last video, you'll have seen some of the huge changes between the episodes 2 to 5 intro credits and episode 6. So me, being the absolute insane person that I am, decided to look frame by frame to see if there were any changes between 6 and 7. And slap my butt and call me Damon, there sure is. It's so small I barely caught it, but unlike the episode 6 version, episode 7 has Laenor's emblem spewing out blood. This has been an effect reserved only for characters who have died, like Queen Emma. So it makes sense this happens for Laenor, for in this episode he is presumed dead, even though he's now living his best life across the narrow sea in San Francisco. Whereas episode 6 started with the sounds of childbirth, episode 7 starts with the ocean. We're at Driftmark, the ancestral home of House Velaryon. The stone casket of Laena Velaryon, who ordered her dragon Vhagar to burn her last episode, is prepared to be dropped into the sea, a Velaryon custom. Whereas the Targaryens burn their dead, like we saw with Emma and baby Balon in episode 1, the Velaryons return them to the sea. Her tomb is dropped into the water, where there are several others around. Conducting the ceremony is Corlys Velaryon's brother Vaemond, who also joined Corlys and Laenor in the battle for the Stepstones. In the book, Vaemond is Corlys's nephew, but they've changed it to brother for the show. One of the things I loved about this episode was how director Miguel Sapochnik, who also directed famous Game of Thrones episodes like Battle of the Bastards, shot these small glances between characters. Take for example this one between Vaemond and Daemon. Vaemond was pretty much ready to mutiny against Daemon when they fought together in the Stepstones. Laena's body is brought back to the Merling King, the god of the Narrow Sea, whom it is said gave the Velaryons the Driftwood throne. And the whole gang is here, from Loras the Rat and even Otto Hightower, who is once again Hand of the King after Lionel Strong was fired. You may have noticed this line from Vaemond where he talks about Velaryon blood runs thick, then looks sharply at Jace and Luke. He knows they're not really Laenor's kids, and when he says their blood must never run thin, Daemon lets out a laugh. It looks as though some salt is thrown on the casket as it's launched into the water, and Aegon here looks just about as bored as he was watching Jace tame his dragon. Just make sure not to give him a room with an open window. There are also 5 dragons in this particular shot. We have Rhaenyra's Syrax, this dragon who is either Dreamfire or Meleys, Daemon's Caraxes, Laenor's Seasmoke, and this little guy who I'm guessing by his size and proximity to the wake below is Baela's dragon Moondancer, who is said to have been pale green with pearl horns. We also know from this shot later in the episode as the king's ship departs that 3 dragons are from Alicent's children, Vhagar, Dreamfire, and Aegon's dragon, who we haven't really seen yet, Sunfire. And just as Rhaenyra walked into the hunting party of episode 3 alone, so too does she here. There are so many interesting power dynamics going on. We have Alicent giving Rhaenyra the look at this bitch look, while Laenor takes a completely normal dip in the sea. Corlys will later task Sir Carl Corey with retrieving his lover, who is really making a drunken fool of himself. Speaking of drunks, no not me, there's Aegon II slamming back wine like me during Frosh Week. We learn that he is betrothed to his own sister Helaena. I guess Rhaenyra's proposal to wed her son Jace to Helaena was rejected. Aegon isn't too pleased with this arrangement. His sister is weird and plays with bugs all the time, but Aemon said he'd totally bang his sister if it meant doing his duty and strengthening the family. Rhaenyra, seeing that Laena's children are all alone, asks Jace to say something nice to his cousins, but he too is also mourning. He lost his true father, Sir Harwin Strong, to that fire at Harrenhal. This is a fire Rhaenyra will later attribute to a curse, for it is said that since the time of Aegon the Conqueror, countless houses have met their end there under mysterious circumstances. If you go to the Ice and Fire wiki, you can see just how many strange things have happened there over time. In this particular case, we know it wasn't a curse that caused this fire, rather Lara Strong's tongueless men. That just sounds like a really bad porno. Rhaenyra essentially tells Jace to suck it up. The Velaryons are their kin and the Strongs are not. I found it to be a pretty callous thing for a woman who just lost her baby daddy. Jace will eventually go over to his cousins and doesn't have to say a word, just his presence is a small comfort. Speaking of something that's not comfortable, Loras staring at Alicent like the guy who won't leave you alone at the bar. Sir Criston tells us that he's the new Lord of Harrenhal, so it seems his motivation for killing his own father and brother wasn't purely driven by helping out the Queen. This was actually one of my favorite scenes in the episode. Corlys tells Luke that Driftmark is one day to be his, passing his father Laenor, who will be busy being king consort in King's Landing, and also passing Jace, who will one day be king. But Luke doesn't want it, as he rightly notes, for if he's Lord of Driftmark, it means everyone else is dead. Bonus points for the little seahorse he plays with. Rhaenys and Rhaenyra don't even talk to each other. The last time we really saw these two interact together was in episode 2, where Rhaenys reminded her that the realm won't allow a woman to take the throne. It's what happened to her at the Great Council when the lords of the realm voted in favor of Viserys, even though Rhaenys had the stronger claim, hence why she is known as the Queen Who Never Was. Rhaenys also does not think too highly of Rhaenyra, believing the rumors that Rhaenyra fooled around Laenor's back and that her children are in fact Harwin Strongs. Aemon and Jace share a look without words, it's a bit awkward, and all by himself is the twice-widowed Daemon Targaryen. King Viserys comes to comfort his brother, telling him that he knows what it's like to lose someone you love. What's worse is that his children are a spitting image of their mother, both a comforting and cursed reminder of what he once had and lost. The king entreats Daemon to return to King's Landing with his daughters where he belongs, but he says that Pentos is home. Last episode, Daemon fielded an offer from Prince Regio Horatus of Pentos to live a life of luxury there in exchange for dragon protection. This is all considering the newly formed alliance between Dorne and the Triarchy. With Daemon's marriage to Rhaenyra at the end of the episode, I think we can safely say that's off the table. Otto here looking like me after a night getting drunk off Bacardi Breezers. He tells Daemon he's sorry for his loss. These two have had a feud since episode 1. Otto hated Daemon's unruly and chaotic nature and how he ran the City Watch, and Daemon had great fun teasing the hand by knocking his son out at the tournament and asking for Alicent's favor. And it looks as though much hasn't changed, for Daemon says of Otto, no matter how fat the leech grows, it always wants for another meal. As Viserys makes his way to bed, you can make out this structure in the distance. I can't tell for sure, but it might be Sharp Point, the seat of House Bar Emmon in the Crownlands. I'm constantly impressed at the attention to detail the creators of the show have put in. Poor Viserys calls his wife by his ex-wife's name, Emma, and everyone around him is like,
don't say anything.
Otto catches his grandson Aegon passed out along the castle walls. It's one of the few times we've seen Otto lash out in anger. He's usually extremely composed, but this is not behavior fitting of a king. This scene also serves a secondary purpose, setting up Aegon as being too drunk when the eventual kitty brawl takes place. Aemond, the kind of loner that he is, sees Vhagar among the clouds. With Laena dead, Vhagar is without a rider. We've already seen how Aemond yearns to claim a dragon, and in this episode, he gets his chance. Among the dunes of Driftmark, Aemond ventures toward the oldest and largest of the living dragons. It's a tense scene of whether the dragon will allow the young boy to claim him, but eventually he does. In the book, things happen a bit differently. It's actually a 3-year-old Prince Joffrey, the child who Rhaenyra gave birth to last episode, who catches Aemond getting close to the dragon, and out of fear of being caught, Aemond clambers up the dragon and by the grace of the gods isn't burned to death. I'll get into some more of these departures from the book in a moment because there are some big ones. Meanwhile, Rhaenys fenced her husband about Daemon. Daemon was the one who denied Laena coming back to Driftmark where their maesters might have been able to save her. Perhaps the gods have scorned House Velaryon, but the conversation soon turns to Rhaenys never getting the crown. Corlys has kept alive the idea that she can one day get it back, if not through her, then through her children. But Rhaenys gave up that idea idea a generation ago. Corlys's desire for the throne has nothing to do with justice for his wife, rather his own ambition. Ambition that has already cost him the life of his child. But for Corlys, legacy is more important than blood. Speaking of legacy, Rhaenys wants Driftmark to pass to Laena's firstborn, Baela, rather than Laenor and Luke. Deep down, Corlys must know Jace and Luke aren't of true Valyrian blood, and Driftmark should pass to a Valyrian. But Corlys is set in his ways. History does not remember blood, it remembers names. Rhaenyra and Daemon walk along the beach. It's an interesting juxtaposition to the walk she had with her first husband Laenor back in episode 5. Instead of walking right to left during the day, these two walk left to right at night. Rhaenyra vents that Laenor has not made an effort to keep up appearances. For goodness sakes, he was taking a dip during his sister's wake. Harwin at least made her feel desired, and although Laenor and her tried to conceive, she believes it never worked because there was no joy in it. Just another way not having a penis has let Rhaenyra down. Rhaenyra believes she never should have sent Harwin to Harrenhal because of that curse, but Daemon calls bullshit. He knows that it was likely Otto or Alicent's doing. Then Rhaenyra confronts Daemon for abandoning her. He has a history of this, venturing off to the steppe zones, going to Pentos, and even leaving her in the middle of a brothel when she was just a girl. Her life has been shit without him, to which he quickly reminds her his hasn't been that great either. She asks him if he ever loved Laena, to which he replies, "We were happy enough." I'm not exactly sure we can take anything he says about his love life to Rhaenyra at face value. As Alicent said about Daemon in episode 4, and I'm paraphrasing here, when have you ever known Daemon not to lie? Because nothing turns someone on more than a funeral, Rhaenyra puts the moves on her uncle, and Daemon's like,
Have sex, my answer yes.
I find it pretty interesting that their lovemaking occurs among a shipwreck, a metaphor for the wreck that is their lives. Daemon's back is littered with scars from his years of battle, and I can only hope Rhaenyra doesn't have another child, or else
You have some explaining to do.
In the show version, it's Baela and Rhaena along with Jace who confront Aemond after his joyride on Vhagar. Vhagar was to be claimed by Rhaena. Remember, she dreamt of having her own dragon after the egg cradled with her at birth failed to hatch. But Aemond swaggers in like the little gangster he is and basically says, "You snooze, you lose," fighting off all four of them like he's in some Jackie Chan movie. But things escalate when Aemond threatens to bash Luke's face with a rock, telling him he'll burn in flames just like his father. Luke doesn't know that Harwin was his real dad, and Jace, trying to protect his little bro, pulls out a knife and attacks. It's quickly tossed out of his hand where Luke picks it up, and while Jace throws sand in Aemond's face, Luke slashes out his eye. Commander of the Kingsguard, Harold Westerling, comes to the rescue, and the king gathers everyone in the throne room to go over what happened.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. And I want to have them answered immediately.
He's rightly pissed that his Kingsguard weren't there to protect him, but as Sir Criston has said, they've never had to protect princes from princes. The Maester informs them that Aemon's eye is lost, and Alicent blames Aegon for being drunk and not there for his brother. Alicent, where were you? It's pretty sad to see how this feud between Rhaenyra and Alicent has now rooted itself into their children. The king is told that Jake's and Luke's legitimacy was called into question, something Rhaenyra calls the highest of treasons. But where has Aemond heard such slander? Obviously his mother, however he knows he can't rat her out, instead calling out his brother. The poor dude was just trying to nurse a hangover. Aegon says a line plucked straight out of the book regarding Jace and Luke's true parentage. Everyone knows, just look at them. The king has heard enough. They are a family and all must apologize and move on. As their king, father, and grandfather, he demands it. But for Alicent, this is insufficient. She wants a literal eye for an eye. Luke's for Aemon's, even going so far as to order Sir Criston to take it out and give it to her. Ay caramba. The king settles things down and all seems good until Alicent reaches for the cat's paw dagger and attacks Rhaenyra. This is a powder keg ready to go off, and thank God this didn't turn into a bloodbath. You have the king's guards not really knowing who to protect. On the one hand you have the queen, and the other the princess who is heir to the throne. And for a moment it looks like we're in this stalemate when anyone could have come in and helped helped take Alicent off the princess. Criston was going to step in, but thankfully Daemon sees to that. He also has beef with the man he once called Sir Crispin after being defeated by him in the tournament from episode 1. It's here we get to see Alicent vent her true frustrations. She has been nothing but the dutiful queen, upholding her family, the law, and sacrificing everything while Rhaenyra has been able to do anything she wants, having affairs and bastard children. And Rhaenyra jests, saying that it must be exhausting hiding under her cloak of righteousness, and now everyone can see Alicent for who she truly is. Alicent slices Rhaenyra's forearm and a hush falls among the crowd. Alicent herself can't believe what she did. Aemon tells everyone that he may have lost an eye, but he gained a dragon, something Otto will later echo, saying that dragon is worth 1,000 times the price he paid. You'd think Otto would come in and berate his daughter for what she did, but the opposite is true. She has finally shown him she has what it takes to get Aegon on that throne. For years, Otto has tried to show Alicent who Rhaenyra truly is, but Alicent pushed back. Now she's out for blood, literally. Fortunately, being the queen has its perks. She'll face no repercussions for what she did to the princess. Unfortunately for Rhaenyra, she'll have a permanent scar on her arm for the rest of her life. And look who showed up being like,
Sorry I'm late, did I miss anything?
and Rhaenyra has the best roast of the episode.
I should have been there.
They should be our house words.
Laenor is devastated at what has transpired. He wasn't there for his sister, his wife, and hasn't been the dad his kids deserve, so he tells her he will send away Sir Carl and recommit himself to strengthening their house and preparing for her ascension. Of course, this all happens as soon as she's made love to her uncle. The king's entourage leaves Driftmark, and the king isn't doing so well. All this stress can't be good for a guy who basically looks like the Crypt Keeper.
Where is he? Where is my grandson?
Alicent tries to apologize, but he won't hear any of it. Following the king's ship are 3 dragons, which must be Aegon's dragon Sunfire, Helena's Dreamfire, and now Aemon's Vhagar. Rhaenyra watches them leave, telling Daemon that everything they possess is owed to fire, yet fire cost them both what they loved, meaning Harwin and Laena. She tells Daemon she can't face Alicent and her cohort, known as the Greens, alone, and suggests they bind their blood just as Aegon the Conqueror did with his sisters. This means marriage, since Aegon married both of his sisters. With the two of them united, their claim would not easily be challenged. The only problem is, Rhaenyra is still married. So Daemon, the ever-cunning man that he is, devises a plan. In the book, it is said that Sir Carl Corey stabbed Laenor to death while attending a fair in Spicetown, and the book even offers several theories how this played out. One was that Sir Carl had grown jealous of Laenor after he found a new lover. The other, that Daemon paid him to kill Laenor in exchange for extravagant wealth, for it was known that Sir Carl had a lord's taste and a peasant's purse. The show, however, paints a much more deceptive tale. Daemon pays Sir Carl not to kill Laenor, but aid in faking his death. First, Carl and Laenor make sure there's a witness to this duel, a young page. Then a decoy body is substituted for Laenor's while Carl and Laenor venture across the narrow sea to start a new life together. We even see Laenor having shaved off his iconic white hair. This is a win-win for everyone except Laenor's parents, who now believe both their children gone. On the other hand, Rhaenyra gets to take Daemon as her husband, and Laenor gets to live his own life. On the king's ship, Larys creeps his way back to Alicent, offering to, quote, balance the scales, should the queen seek revenge for her son. If there's anyone that could make that happen, it's Larys. Alicent knows that Larys could be a strong ally, telling him his devotion has not gone by unnoticed. There will be a day when she'll need someone with his skills and discretion. Meanwhile, Daemon and Rhaenyra are wed in relative secrecy, with only a high priest, maester, and their children in attendance. Not much is known about this Valyrian marriage rite, only that the book describes the ceremony as a wedding of blood and fire. This particular marriage takes place on Dragonstone, and even a blade of dragon glass, native to Dragonstone, is used in the ceremony. In the book, Rhaenyra is 23 and her uncle 39. It's gonna be a little bit suspicious when the day after your husband was supposedly killed, you go on and marry your uncle. Rhaenyra actually expresses these concerns to Daemon, but he's okay with it. let their enemies think they may have been involved, for it'll show that they are not to be messed with. The episode ends with a now bald Laenor and Sir Carl Corey venturing off to a ship in the distance to start their new life together. And just as the episode started with the sounds of the ocean, so too does it end with it. Now, if you're curious what's to happen next, be sure to subscribe to my channel, because within 24 hours of releasing this video, I come out with my next episode preview video, which has tons of book spoilers and theories on where the show is headed next. Thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to like and subscribe, and let me know what you thought of the episode below. For more bad takes, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember,
I should have been there.
They should be our house words.